Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody inside and outside the ballpark. My name is NovedPlayer, and welcome to episode 61 of the Noved Notes podcast, where we talk to many different creators and communities inside the platform. I'm your host, and with me today, I have one of the developers, the developer, I should say, of one of the most amazing full-body estimation systems inside of VR chat. We have John Standable. We have I3Llamas.
Hello.
Welcome in. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I am doing great.
Awesome. So first and foremost, for the general listening audience at home, what exactly is Standable?
That is a great question that I have some friends that explain it better than I even do. But Standable is basically it was originally for users that don't have the extra funding or the extra they don't want to do all the hassle of having a full body kit, because basically most headsets just have a headset and two controllers, but if you want extra like leg tracking, you need to buy extra trackers. What Standable does is tries to estimate hardware through software. Basically, using lots of math and algorithms, you're able to get I would say 80% experience of full body with a fraction of the price. And with recent updates, you also can combine it with actual full body trackers to be able to combine and what I call mixed tracking for especially when trackers lose tracking or you just don't want to put them on today. That kind of thing. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And first and foremost, obviously because Standable is a little bit newer when it comes to the age of VR chat. So I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask, what got you into VR chat in the first place?
Honestly, I'll answer that question with a broader answer, I guess.
Sure.
I got into VR. I have always loved the concept of VR. Like ever since I remember back when I was 10 years old, I wanted to get it, try out some of the VR stuff, but it was way too expensive back then. But I knew that there was at the Microsoft store, you can go try out the original Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, but you had to be 13 to do that demo. And so on my 13th birthday, I went out and did that. So I've been interested in VR for as long as I can remember, but it wasn't until 2019 that I actually got my first headset, which was unless you want to count Google Cardboard, but that was a whole thing. It wasn't until 2019 when the Quest 1 released that I got into VR, actually immersed into VR. And for the first year or so, I was just a normal consumer, playing games, and all that. But I've always had a quite creative side, and I wanted to eventually start making my own games. And at the time, my mom had a 2013 MacBook Pro, which was maybe not the best dev machine, but I installed Unreal Engine on it and learned how to basically make my own Quest 1 games. And I've had one or two games that I kind of made, never released them, of course. But then after some more time, I actually started working on a game that is technically still on the Quest store, or side quest, to be more specific, called Finn. It's basically I've always loved Bone Lab and Boneworks. At the time, Bone Lab hadn't released, but I really liked the concept of Boneworks, and I wanted to have access to that. And so I worked on a game called Finn, which is basically my take on a physics-based sandbox. And it originally ran on a Quest 1 and then eventually Quest 2. And that was basically kind of my project that I was working on. I saw all these ideas of how I could improve it in the future and all that. But eventually, it came down to when you're making a game, you have to basically make everything from scratch if there isn't already tools for that thing. And one of the things with back then is there weren't as many tools for IK. So if you play the game Finn, you can see your legs just kind of float there. They're just they just don't move at all. Like even you're walking
They
around,
just dangle there.
and that was purely there's dangle, and because I wanted to make sure that if I did legs, I want to do them properly and them not just be an animation. And so it never released in the demos that I released for Finn. But what I was thinking was like, okay, let me spend just 1 week trying to figure out how to get these legs to move, right? Just for my game here. Like I wasn't thinking I was going to make my entire career here. I was just gonna be. I'll just spend 1 week, see what I can make for this animation here, and we'll see. I spent about 2 weeks, but at the end of the day, I realized like what I created here. I found some very interesting patterns in the human walk gait that I was able to again notice these patterns, and then replicate actually surprisingly accurate footfall position. And like back then it was actually much worse compared to what it is now. But I saw the potential there. And so I was working on that within my game. But eventually, once I figured out more and more like how I could do laying down, how I could do all these other things, I started realizing how larger of a scope this actually was. And so what I ended up doing was I made it much more clean. I cleaned it up a lot, and I threw a demo out and like released my original like announcement videos, basically saying, "Hey, this is a thing I made called Standable," right? And the name is actually a very interesting story. I'll have to tell you later. But I released that with the idea of like I'm going to release developer tools. But then at this point in time, I started getting into actual VR chat. And like to actually answer your question in the longest-winded way possible.
All good.
I forgot what initially got me interested in VR chat, because I remember back Quest 1 days, I tried playing VR chat, but back then Quest support was basically you only saw robot avatars. I was in there 15 minutes and instantly left. It just wasn't my thing. And I was much more of an introvert back then than I am now. Like I still consider myself an introvert, but like back then it was just like, there's people talking, I gotta leave.
Fair.
So, but I forgot what specifically got me into it. Actually, no, I remember. So I have some friends on Discord that saw that what I was doing with all this, all of the estimation stuff, and they're like, "Hey, like you need to get into like VR chat." Like, and a lot of people think like would really like this kind of development. And so I kind of got into it. I met a friend, funnily enough, through email that like he's actually my roommate now. But like he emailed me saying, "Hey, I love like again this is after I released all of the like all of the basically just announcements saying that I'm working on this thing, and like I know Thrill Seeker actually had like a little section on me, which is the coolest thing ever for me at the time. But like because of that, it was widespread within the industry, and a bunch of people reached out. One of them, again, being my roommate. But then we eventually like became friends, and we started hanging out in VR chat together. And from there, I met a lot of people that eventually convinced me that like, hey, you should make a SteamVR driver first instead of the developer tools, because then people at least can get their hands on it. Right. And to this day, I still haven't released the developer tools. But like, but there it basically just snowballed into what it is now. We can go more specifics on that soon. But to answer your question, it was really a lot of it was knowing that there's a lot of really cool innovation within the VR chat space, and seeing the stuff that I was doing. I was intrigued to meet other people like me, and also just go there for the fun and of meeting friends and stuff. So that's kind of how I initially got into VR chat, which wasn't just a like, oh yeah, this is a fun game, whatever. It was actually quite tied to Standable. A lot of my stuff, a lot of my friends, a lot of everything is so tied up within Standable that like I'm glad I chose to work on it. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of to go into that specifically, because obviously when you had started working on Standable, you were just finishing high school.
yeah.
So I guess one of the first and foremost questions, like, at such a young age, what kind of wanted what made you want to get into like game development and development in
Mhm.
general?
That's a good question. Let me think about that because like it's like I said, like I've always been really creative. Like before I got into game development and programming, I wanted to be an artist. Like I was the art kid in school. And but I think a lot of it was getting to see because like I liked the like game development before VR. Like I liked the concepts because it was a very creative thing, to be able to create your own worlds. But then once I got into VR, it's like being able to create my own world that I get to be in is a huge thing. And so I think that's where a lot of that came from. And it's just something that like I'll always stuck with me. And also my dad's also like he's an IT guy. And so like I've always been around technology and I've I also now that I think of it, it's quite obvious. My grandpa is also a programmer, and so
Oh,
like
wow.
it's just I guess it runs in the family.
Yeah.
Uh,
Chip off the old block,
but
as they always say.
a lot of it, I think why it's so hard to pinpoint a specific thing that made me want to do it. I think it's just I kind of just grew up in that kind of sphere, and it just I I was just drawn to it.
No, I mean that's fair. I was gonna say it can be a lot of things when it comes to, because that's one of the questions I always ask people. Because with VR chat, you get so many different walks of life, so many
Hmm.
different people from all over the world, all different mindsets, all that stuff. It's kind of crazy what people, because a lot of them you hear, oh, like you got and Knuckles got me in, or this
Hmm.
YouTuber, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but to kind of go from, being 17, 18 years old, making, this, these games and apps, like just kind of going from I guess a generational quote unquote, like everyone's been around technology, so like got to keep going. Hey, that's kind of interesting. I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of the first ones I've had in that regard.
Yeah.
Ironically enough. Um, so I guess kind of to go into things a little bit. So what made you come up with the name Standable?
Funnily enough, uh, it kind of just it fit, but it wasn't originally for this project. Um, Basically, back in I believe my freshman year of high school, I I had a coding class, and with one of my friends, Dallin. Not gonna dox him, but uh,
Fair.
but he like we were just good friends, and we were both in this coding class together. Um, and we had this cool idea for like this one game that we wanted to make together. And like if you're gonna have a game, of course you need a company name, right? And so I was just thinking of like, oh, what would be like a cool name for a company or like a game studio. I was just trying to think of what is a word that is technically not a word, like it is in the dictionary, but it sounds like it should be a word, right? I was like, standable. Like it's kind of like a word, but it's it's a word that it's like sounds like it's from the dictionary, but it's not. It's its own thing. Um, and
Hmm.
so I just defaulted to using that for like basically as my studio name for a while. And like people when I first released like showed off Standable stuff, like Standable full body estimation. Full body estimation was technically the product name at that point. Standable was the studio name. And like if like in the Discord back then it was like welcome to the Standable Discord where we're gonna have multiple different projects all underneath the Standable name. Um, but eventually I kind of realized like Standable is so it's a great name for what Standable is now. Like it's It's very easy to remember. It's unique, and it's not overcomplicated, right? It's not a super technical term. But if you want to get more technical, you add the full body estimation on top of that, right? And so, yeah, it started off as just like a high school idea for a studio name to my actual like studio name for all my projects to now it's just this one product. Yeah, it's very odd how those things lined up like that.
No, fair enough. I mean, that's still cool regardless. Because that way you have like a, what's the word here? You have a blanket name for everything. That way you're not making names and names and names. It's like, okay, it's Standable this, or, et cetera, et cetera. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So kind of a off-topic question, a little bit, but obviously for the people that are watching this on YouTube or Spotify for the visual side, so I gotta ask, what made you come up with the avatar that you are currently using? Because I see it in all the videos.
No, it's a long story. Well, not really. It's this avatar is very special to me. And so like when a lot of people ask like, oh, is it a public avatar? Can you make it public? I'm like, no, this is me, right?
Right.
This character here is a character. A lot of people actually think it's a Stand-A-Buddy, but Stand-A-Buddies came after, like the little icons like for Standable. But this is his own character. I made him like I can actually be just him because for a while he didn't have the mech, like he was just the little guy, right? I'm back.
We're keeping that in, editor. Don't worry about it.
But basically, back in 6th grade, again, like a lot, like I'm young enough, like I'm 20 now, like I'm young enough that it's everything is back in high school, back in elementary.
I was about to say, don't you dare start saying the only other life I have.
Yeah. But back in 6th grade, I remember he was a little doodle I drew on my math homework. Like I just drew him as a little guy, and he was nice. Like he was my little math partner, right? And I drew him. I just liked the little design. It was very simple to draw. It was just like the little tongue and straight line mouth, right? And so he kind of just stuck with me. Like I kept drawing him more and more. Again, this is back when I was really into art, and so like I had this character, and every year for Halloween, I always liked doing like making my own costume. Like I didn't want to just go Walmart and buy a Shrek costume or something. I want to make my own, right? Sure. And so, but I remember, I believe it was 7th or 8th grade, I wanted to be him because I liked the character. And I was thinking, like, I can make like a paper mache, I can make like a paper mache like head and all of that. But I didn't want it to be like a big Baymax style, like big, like I want to be able to sit down in my chair and not be restricted.
Right.
And so like I'll have to send you the image, but I drew up a little concept of like, okay, well, what if he's like in the mech and I am the mech, right? And so like it's just like a little thing. So it was originally like a Halloween costume idea with my little character. And then a couple years later, I get my first headset. I eventually get into VR chat, and I wanted to make an avatar. I'm like, well, who do I want to be? I didn't really want to like make a stylized version of me, or I didn't want to make a realistic me, or I didn't want to be a character that already pre-existed. But I knew I had this character that I really liked, and the same issue came up of I don't want to be a big chibi guy. I want it to be my proportions. And so I went back and found that original concept, and I built an avatar based off of it. And like the actual mech part of it has changed in design so much, but his original design is very consistent. Like I've improved his face visines and like just improved overall everything about it. But like generally he's stayed consistent, right? And so yeah, like to answer your question, it's a character I've had for so long, and and just eventually just evolved into what it is now. So
No, fair. I mean, that's really cool that like everything's kind of like, the original design from, back in that day. That's really cool.
mhm.
It
I
definitely.
did have a moment where I tried redesigning him for like one of my older Avies. Like I tried like doing like a refresh of his design, and it just ended up looking horrible. And I just went directly back. Uh,
Got to keep the original.
yeah, yeah.
But no, that's really cool. Like, that you've able to hold a creation from that long ago and implement it into new technologies. Because I remember in one of your videos, one of the earlier videos, you used it as like a VTuber kind of thing, or a PNG tuber per se.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I
So
remember that.
so I was kind of
Yeah.
curious what kind of came up with the character. Well, that's cool. I'll say
Hmm.
that's awesome. So I
Yeah.
guess kind of to go into kind of like the origins a little bit again, because obviously
Hmm.
we talked about like what got you into VR chat and like developing per se. Because
Hmm.
obviously when you had first started making this and everything, obviously you eventually got the attention of people, and you started
Hmm.
growing and making essentially a community out of it, per se. So what was kind of the mind process of yours when it came to like starting to grow from like the very beginning to now?
A lot of it has been just going with the flow. Um, because I like one of the things that surprised me the most is, other than my initial like post about like me want like saying, hey, this is a thing I'm working on, like back in 2022 October, I believe. Other than that, I have not done any actual active advertising. Like none of like I haven't actually went out and like, hey, you should buy Standable because blah blah blah. It's literally just been word of mouth, and like same with the
Wow.
community of like it's just been people hearing about it from their friends. And like really the best kind of advertising is when you hear it from a friend and they say, hey, have you should check this out, versus just a picture on a wall saying, hey, you should check this out.
No,
um
100%.
and so a lot of that was literally just like, yeah, it was never something that I ever intended to like, I need to grow my community much as possible. It was just purely just people being interested in the product and seeing the journey um, of building that. And like again, like initially it was that video that got reposted on Twitter by a bunch of really big creators. I remember when like some of them like I know like Nathy, Thrill, Sadly It's Bradley, they all like reposted it. And this is at a time that I like they were people that I looked up to. Now that I don't look up to them now, but at the time it was just like I just got recognized for like they're saying my name, right? Um and like but like that initial bump was all I needed for it to then once people saw that it actually was a viable product, then it just sells itself. And the community side of it, like I've been really enjoying going to like my tech support, my like official tech support. He set up a like community hangouts basically every week on the Discord. Like we just hang out in VR chat. I try to be there as often as possible. Um, but like it's I do want to get more integrated into both the VR chat community and the Standable community. But like it because it's all, like we just recently hit 10,000 members on the Discord, which is just crazy. Um, and like
Hell yeah.
this Standable has definitely changed my life for the better. But
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean that's amazing. First and foremost, congratulations on the 10,000,
thank you,
members.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. It's not easy to grow, especially with Discord. It's not easy to grow a community like that.
Hmm.
I would almost say, and this is a personal take by the way for those watching, like I would say growing a VR chat group is more easier than any other platform. Especially
Hmm.
with social media like Twitter, Blue Sky, Reddit,
Hmm.
heaven forbid, reoccurring joke. But but or like YouTube or Spotify. with VR chat, you can go out and interact with these people in the platform that you're using. So you
Mm-hmm.
can go, talk to people face to face and be like, yeah, like, are you interested in like role playing or, or game
Mm-hmm.
nights or movie, like filmmaking or whatever the case, whatever the group is. I feel like it's a lot easier to grow on that front. But with Discord, it's kind of
Yeah.
harder to get people to join a Discord or join another social media platform in that regard.
The really cool thing about that was for my 2.0 release. Basically, I was hyping up like the 2.0 when like all mixed tracking and all that. Like it was a much better is better in all ways than version 1. But the cool thing was it wasn't just I clicked publish and released the thing. We actually had a event. We actually had an event where version version 2 was announced, and basically like I said, like, hey, version 2, I got a trailer basically, and we went to a VR chat, like basically a whole event where like I think that we had like 200 people there, and like we just had it up on the big screen. I it was the first time like moderating a instance personally. Like I had a bunch of my friends all volunteer as well, but like it was cool because for a lot of other industries, it's just you release the thing and it's out. For this, it was like we all got to sit and watch the trailer together and then have a Q&A right then and there, about like people had a lot of questions about mixed tracking and all like how it all works, how it improved from version 1, and it was just really cool like to actually see people's reactions and instead of just a comment section, right? So like the
Yeah.
medium is definitely like helps a lot with that.
No, fair enough. I mean that's amazing first and foremost that you guys are able to do all these amazing things when it comes to that. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
There may be an event to watch this episode to learn more about this guy. But anyway, no, I'm kidding. But it's completely on you guys. I mean, this will be premiered. Like all my episodes, they are
Mm-hmm.
always premiered. Um, I always like to see who likes to come by and watch them when they go live. It's always a
Yeah.
fun thing if people interact in the chat and just kind of like, oh, I didn't know this or that or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm talking about you, chat over here. Um, but no, it's really cool that you guys are so close in that regard. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
kind of one of the things to kind of go on in that sense, because obviously we've been talking about like the origins and like what kind of got Standable started. So when it comes to like current things with Standable, because I know about a few months ago you had put, I believe, the 2.1 announcement. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like what kind of, for maybe those that may not have seen it because YouTube algorithms are a pain, like what are like some of the more recent stuff that you've been working on when it comes to Standable?
Yeah, and you mentioned 2.1, and really what 2.1 was and is basically a refresh for 2.0, where there was a lot of UI stuff that I learned like once 2.0 was in people's hands. Like I had a whole beta thing with like my Patreon members for a while, and so I got a lot of really good feedback through there. But once it was in the hands of everyone, I learned a lot on how to improve it and just small tweaks that I could make. One of the biggest things was an adjustment to the whole UI. Like I did a refresh for 2.0, but 2.1 I would say polished that, and so it's a much more compact UI and allows for a lot more. There's a lot more settings as well, but yeah, like it's right now. That's kind of where things are at. Um, but like in terms of future stuff, there's there's stuff that I am working on. Like I've hinted at like big exciting stuff like on my Twitter, but some plans have changed in regards to that. Uh, there's still exciting stuff happening. It's not the same exciting stuff, but it's I think it'll be better for the industry, honestly. And so that is I would say in terms of I'm rambling here. I'm
You're
trying to
good.
put my thoughts together. Um,
Hello, everyone. Real quick, just want to pause the episode right here. I want to thank you all so much for the massive amount of support. If you haven't heard already, we also do have a merch store as well, where you can get all the Noved Notes apparel, all the sorts of stuff. It'll be down at the very bottom of the description, so make sure to go check that out. I do want to thank you so much for watching this far. If you are watching and enjoying what you're seeing, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It does help me out. We are trying to get to 1,000 by the end of 2025. But with that, let's get back into the episode. Woo!
Right now, I am working on, I don't want to call it 3.0, but it probably will just be 3.0. I have a habit of making a 1 point, like version 1, version 1.1 jumps to 2, version 2.1 jumps to 3. So but it's right now I am working on a full refactoring of Standable. Now that I understand how much, like the scope of the project, and I've learned so much since even version 2 released, right? I know I'm basically refactoring it and rewriting it with a much stronger base foundation that will allow for a lot more flexibility and modularity, right? Because like one of the big things with 2.0 was mixed tracking, but it works with like 6DoF trackers, but like SlimeVR and IMU trackers, it's not great, right? But with this new update, I'm not promising it, but I think with this new update, with how the framework is getting set up, it'll allow for much more like interaction with other trackers in all types of configurations. And not only will that be the case, also just overall is going to be much more efficient, much more cleaner on the back end. And if don't quote me on this, but you can quote me, but I'm not promising this. I believe it can. I don't know if it will, but I believe I can get Standable twice as accurate as it currently is.
Oh, wow.
With the time and with enough development time, I believe I can. Like just with my understanding of how everything works. And so 3.0 is cleaning it all up, allowing for a lot more interaction with different types of trackers, and not so locked into the SteamVR ecosystem, as well as huge improvements on accuracy of tracking. When I say tracking, I mean estimation, right?
Right.
And I don't know when this will release. It may never release. Like it's just like this kind of how it is. But it's big scope. But I do believe in it, and I'm hoping for the initial development is looking really good. But I can tell it will take some time to perfect.
No, for sure. And you kind of mentioned like other, trackers and et cetera, on the front. So I wanted to kind of, because obviously there are a lot of different types of trackers. I mean, shoot, people, I don't know if anyone still uses this technique, but people use the Kinect, people use Joy-Cons. There's your official trackers, there's like the Tundra trackers, the Slime trackers. We had one of the community reps from SlimeVR come on and give a talk. So I mean there's a lot of different trackers out there. So it'd be definitely interesting to see how much you can do in regards to implementing Standable onto that. I'll say, I mean, shoot, this is topical at the moment, but I'll say we have the Switch 2, on the horizon, the new Joy-Cons and everything. So I'm curious of how many people are going to be able to figure out how to use, the Switch 2 Joy-Cons
and that's the cool thing about what I'm hoping with this new framework is it's built in a way that I don't have to make it work with every tracker. It's built in a way that other people can implement their own implementations on how a tracker communicates with Standable. And so let's say a new tracker releases, I don't even have to update to support that. It just automatically, if it works in SteamVR, it'll just work in Standable, right?
That'll be nice.
And it'll automatically be able to detect what kind of tracker it is, and so it'll use the proper algorithm to do that. And when I say algorithm, a lot of people actually think that Standable is machine learning based or like AI. It is not, actually. It is completely linear algebra and trigonometry. Um, it's because a lot of people are like, oh, what like machine learning algorithms are you using, or what GitHub are you referencing? I'm like, I just made it. Like I learned trigonometry before I took it in high school. And so like it is purely just it is purely just taking the headset and controller positions, and like I have video of me basically just in my room, just going like crouching down, doing like all different like motions, just as a reference to be able to look at and try to pick up. Like you just need to pick up the patterns. There's a lot of patterns in how the human walks and moves, and there's rules to it. And if you can simplify those rules into like written out rules, then you can take those written out rules and make code based off of that. And then then add enough layers of that on top of each other, and you have Standable. And so it's when someone says like, "Hey, you need like, is it machine learning based?" It's like problem with machine learning is I don't know how it actually works. With Standable, I can tell you exactly how something like why something's moving in that weird way, or how I can fix that. Like one of the biggest bugs right now that annoys me is when my hip tracker disappears. Sometimes it doesn't automatically, like right now it's fine because the it properly sat, but sometimes it'll just like jut my hips outwards.
Right.
I know exactly why that is, and I know how to fix it. I still haven't. I still need to. But if that was a machine learning based thing, I just have to retrain the entire thing.
Right.
With this, it's like I just go to that part of the code, rewrite it a bit, and then it's fixed. Assuming I fixed it, but yeah. And so yeah, like I understand it from top to bottom on how the estimation works, and like it's all hand coded. None of it's machine learning. I might have some machine learning stuff in 3.0 to aid more of the really complex stuff, like right now my sitting down trigger basically is a little sensitive, but I think a machine learning thing would be able to detect that better. But I wouldn't do it the way Meta does it, of basically top down everything is AI.
Yeah, never.
But
never want to go that far.
Yeah, but I think that's it's a misconception. I see a lot of people have of like, oh, it's a machine learning algorithm and stuff. I'm like, no, that's 12 months of me walking around my room, and it's funny. So because of that, especially like in the early days when I was really into like working on it, like I would be at the mall, right? I'd just be sitting on a bench at the mall, like waiting for like my family to finish up what they're doing. I'll just see someone walking by. I'm just like, oh, that's a really interesting walk gait. Oh, okay. I kind of see them walking, and I pick up on the patterns and stuff, and I realize like maybe I should stop staring at their legs. That's kind of a little creepy. Like just them walking by, and it's like, that's good. Yeah.
That's good. It's such a wild thing to say. I need you to make a short of you just recreating that just in VR chat.
Yeah.
You just have people walk by.
No, I am now known. It is funny though, because within my friend groups, like I am now known as the leg guy. So like it's like I don't mind legs. Legs are fine, but like because of Standable and all of that, like it's legs are kind of my thing apparently.
I mean, it makes sense if you really think about it, but like that can be taken so out of context.
No, it definitely can, and yeah.
Ooh, legs.
Ooh.
Walk patterns.
Yes. I gotta compliment you on your walk gait. It's just beautiful.
Oh my lord. No, it's definitely crazy. That such a wild thing, legs. But
yeah.
So I guess kind of like one of the things I wanted to ask, what So in the regards of Standable, what is one of the most like common things that you deal with when it comes to like user I don't want to say user error, but like when interacting with
Support
users,
tickets and
support tickets, yeah.
people.
Like
Yeah,
what's one of the most common things that like you deal with when it comes to that?
yeah. Like I've I've taken that responsibility and put it on my friend. I actually he's my official tech support now. I have a couple other volunteers, but so like I don't I'm not as in the weeds as I used to be because
Sure.
if I spent all like with how many users we have at this point, like I think like Steam is saying we're almost about to hit 100,000 users,
Wow.
like which is yeah. Or when I say users, I mean just at least sales.
Right.
Um, but with that many people, it's like if I spent all of my time with tech support, I would never be able to release another update, right?
Right, of
Um,
course.
and so I'm not as much in the weeds as I used to be, but a lot of like for a while, I actually there was really no documentation beforehand. Like recently, I updated the StandableVR.com website to have a full StandableVR.com.
It'll be
But
right here.
right here, right here. It's basically anything you need to know about Standable. 95% of it will be in there. It's a quick start guide for basically first time using Standable. You just it walks you through all the different steps. There's frequently asked questions. There's common issues. So if there's like common issues that happen, you can go there and generally there's a fix on one why it happens and two how to fix it. There's also like settings overview that goes over all of the settings, what they do, and some examples of how to use them. And like it is basically, if you want to know how to use Standable, that is the website. And like StandableVR.com. So
Throw it down there.
whoa. But the thing is that used to not always be the case. It used to be it's still on the channel technically, on the Standable channel, but it used to just be like a 10-minute video, basically just it was actually closer to 20 minutes. I like to call it a quick guide, like quick start guide. It was not quick, because there's just a lot of information to go over.
Sure.
But I realized a lot of people didn't really want to have to watch a 20-minute video just to get their one answer, and so I worked on making that documentation. But it used to not be that way, and back then a lot of the issues were just again common issues that I didn't explain in the video, and like it was a lot of it was just like, of course there were some like actual good bug reports and stuff, but a lot of it is just, hey, you just didn't we just don't have information on this. We'll explain it. So like we had to like repeat ourselves so much, and that's where the documentation released. But even with the documentation, I would say probably one of our biggest issues is the fact that people just don't read the documentation. They're like, I don't understand. How does this work? I'm like,
I relate
read
to
the
that
thing
on
that
so
tells you
many
how it
levels.
works.
I relate to that on so many. I can't say it on camera, but off camera, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate.
But for everyone here, you can go to StandableVR.com, but there's also a link on the UI. It's on the bottom left. There's a little thing that says Quick Start Guide or Online Manual. I believe it says Online Manual. And so, and that'll just send you directly to it. But
we'll send a screenshot. We'll put a screenshot right here of like with a circle of where you can find it.
But like that, I would say that's one of the most common issues. Is like just it's a variety of issues, but really what the core thing is they just didn't read the information that was available to them. And like I understand is like they don't want to have to read a whole essay on like all this random stuff that I don't even know if there's the information they need. But it's a little quicker than us than telling you the exact same information. But like other than that, our most like common issues that people run into is mostly just I would say floor height stuff. Because like you can't always trust SteamVR's floor, and you can't always trust Quest's floor like stuff. And so I created my own system to have like change your floor height and stuff. And there's a lot of messiness that causes of like if your floor is too high and you try to calibrate, it makes you really small. And there's just a lot of variables that go into that, especially with like also all VR chats like height settings and offset settings. There's a lot of variables with that. And so that is one like a really common issue. And with 2.1, I did improve. We didn't improve a lot of things with that, but it's like I think with 3.0, I have some ideas on how to make that even better. But yeah.
No, fair enough. I'll say it's definitely. I mean, obviously, with something like Standable, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So obviously, it's just like any other tool. There's bound for user error. So to have a docs website is, first of all, phenomenal. Like we just implemented one for Project Community this year, to where it has literally everything. I can't say any more on that, but
it's right here.
No, no, redacted. No, but I mean, we now have things that help our people. Like that way, we don't have to constantly like get DMs and like, oh, what about this? It's all here. Oh, what about? Nope, it's all here. Go here, please go here. Like it makes it a lot easier for all of the information to be in one place, rather than look like for Discord announcements or whatever the case may be. But that's really cool that you now have a standable documentation as well.
Yeah.
So
and even if like if the documentation doesn't do like if there's not the information you need, it also does send you to the Discord where we do have official support ticket stuff. Those support tickets we do have we have an official tech support that is like they are paid for their work. But we generally try to go with the idea of like, hey, this is a community support thing. So like if anyone else has an answer to it, don't just wait for our tech support to get to them. Like just tell them the answer. Like try help out. And so like if you continue having issues after reading through the documentation, like you can just hop into Discord and we'll be able to help you, or someone in the community would love to help you. And you can also in the same Discord, like there's all of the community hangouts and all that.
Bam! No, of course, all the links will be down in the description, which we'll get into that at the end of the episode. But no, that's cool that you guys have, not only official tech, but you also have community that's willing to like help out and stuff. That's really cool. So I guess kind of because we're running a little bit out of time. It does not feel like it's been almost 50 minutes now.
It does not.
It never does. So I guess kind of one of the things, because we kind of talked about the origins and kind of the current and some of the future stuff. So like, are there any other projects that are kind of in the works that like you could kind of maybe sneak peek? Not yet. Fair enough.
I am working on a hardware project. If it ever sees the light of day, I have no idea. But I have I have another idea for software stuff. Like I like with Standable, I expected Standable to be just a one and done thing. Because I knew, like, I've always expected like a full body tracker to release that's just dirt cheap and comes with every headset, or Meta release a version of Standable themselves. They did, but no one uses it. Not no one, but like it didn't dominate the market, right?
Sure.
And so I've always expected, like I always kind of put Standable in this like, this is my temporary project, but I need to be able to pivot once it kind of dies off. We're almost running, like we're about to hit 2 or 3 years now, and it's still going strong. Honestly, I think it has many years ahead, like before it becomes irrelevant. And once 3.0 is out, I don't even know if it ever will be irrelevant. Um,
Hmm.
so, but because of that, because of it feeling like a temporary project, I had a lot of other projects that I've been excited about, but I just never really got to start working on because how much time Standable has taken. Um,
Sure.
but I ended up I've been able to chip out a good amount of my time now that I am actually working on these other projects. And when I say projects, like there's one specifically that I see a lot of potential in. The other ones are more still in conceptual phase. Um, and and so I think a lot of that is like I've had this idea to it's a weird idea, but I want to actually release if this current project ever sees the light of day, I'm not going to release it under my name like at first. I want to just release it under my company's name basically. Um because not just because like Standable used to be like the kind of the company or studio name, but now I
Right.
do have an actual other one. Because Standable I think just fits so well with the product. Um, so but I have this weird idea to just I want to see what happens because I know if it works the way that I think it does, like this new project, if I release it, it doesn't matter who released it. It doesn't need my name backing it. Like it's going to be
Right.
successful no matter what. Um, and so I want to see. Like I think it would just be cool to just release it as its own thing, see that community grow for a little bit, and then be like, yeah, it's me. Like
You gotcha. Like,
I
yeah,
gotcha.
that would be pretty
Um,
funny.
like it wouldn't be very hard to like realize but like it's mostly I don't want. Yeah, like I don't know how long it will be. Like it might be another few years before anyone even sees it. Um,
Hmm.
but if it works the way I expect it to and hope it does, uh, it'll actually be. I think it might be more industry changing than Standable. I'm hoping, but
It's gonna be
not to hype anyone
shoulderable.
up and shoulderable.
Shoulder movements that look proper.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Uh,
So-
but
Sorry.
no, like I do have some other projects in the pipeline. None of them are promised to release or ever come out. Like Standable, I believe will most likely just be my gift to the industry, most likely for my entire life. Um, woo. and but if it does release, I know everyone will hear about it. So
No, fair. So I guess finally, one of the last questions, because obviously, because you started it out so young. I mean, you're still young. Um,
Mhm.
so I that still bugs me. The more I do this podcast, the more I realize how much creators aren't like they're young. Like we had a filmmaker, we had Virtual on the podcast, and
Mhm.
he had started Portal Media when he was like 16, and
Yeah, no. The weird thing is, so I ended up I went to a MIT Reality Hack. It's basically MIT throws like basically a VR hackathon, right?
yeah.
Where basically it's like a game jam where you have like 3 days to either build something like a hardware project or a software like thing, and then like there's prizes and stuff. But like I went to that, met a lot of really cool people within the industry, and then like I talked to some of them, and I'm like, oh yeah, you seem pretty cool. How old are you? "Y- You're 16, huh? Like it is like because I'm at an age that I'm still young. Like 20 is not old, but like it's crazy that like I feel the same thing surprisingly that like even I feel old compared to them, right? Um,
No,
and so like it
it's
is
crazy.
crazy how much innovation is being done with the younger generation. Um, technically my generation, but like
Yeah.
it is really cool to see.
It's definitely wild to think about. But yeah, so one of the last questions I wanted to ask, because we are running a little bit out of time, despite the tech issue that VR chat just randomly crashed on me. But so I guess kind of one of the final questions. So if you had a piece of advice for anybody who's wanting to start, developing or make things, using like SteamVR, like control dev stuff or anything of that sorts. What is a piece of advice you can give to somebody who's maybe wanting to start working on stuff, in that regard?
Hmm. The interesting thing is like I ended up doing it purely out of the want for something to exist. And I've realized like I had a few projects that kind of just got uh shelved because I ended up realizing I didn't really care about making it. I felt like it could be a product, and like I was kind of just chasing that like successful product high, like after Standable. I was like, oh, I need to make something else that's also so good or whatever. But with projects, you're not going to be able to release something that you're not passionate about. And don't go into don't just go into development to be a developer. Go into development because you want to make something. Like if you want a piece of art to exist, you should like you get the tools to learn how to make that piece of art. You don't get the tools and be like, "Man, what can I make?" Right?
Right.
And so I would say really like I would say all of the projects that I've seen with especially in the VR industry that are just mind-blowing and awesome is because it's by passionate people who just want something to exist and no one else was doing it, so they decide to learn and do it themselves. And so I would say like find something that you want to exist, not something you want to make.
Fair enough. No, I mean that's a sound piece of advice right there. Um, it's definitely. I mean, that's really what VR chat's all about, right? It's create stuff,
Hmm.
that you enjoy. Um, it's one of the reasons why I love this podcast so much and why I'm passionate about getting so many different people on
Yeah.
because, everyone's a creative here. Well, okay, not
Hmm.
everybody, but like 90% of the people here are creatives. Um,
Yeah. I mean, Shrek Church was quite creative. Just gotta say.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. No. No. Oh, that just flooded so many
Uh,
memories back. Oh no, thanks. Well, uh dude, llamas, it's been so
mhm.
fantastic to have you on and kind of get to learn more
Yeah, no,
about you and
yeah, no, you've been trying to get me on for a while, and I kept saying I'm busy, but like I honestly, I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad I could join you.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I was trying. But
You eventually got me.
yeah. You never said no, so I was like, okay,
Yeah,
maybe give it a few months. So,
yeah.
but no. Before we do end everything off, I do want to give you a spot to kind of tell the
Hmm.
people where they can find you, all the links you want down in the description, on the screen, all that
Hmm.
stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
tell them where they can find you and all your stuff.
I am I3Llamas on most platforms like Twitter slash X, um, as well as actually no, I think it's just Twitter. But everywhere else it's just Standable. So like on YouTube it's just Standable, Stable. Wait, Stable. I can't spell my own thing. Stad in S. Oh boy, Stable. There we
There
go.
you go.
Standable on for YouTube. And then, but if you want to get Standable, you can actually either go to standablevr.com and there'll be a link on in there, or you can go to Steam and just search Standable full body estimation, and it'll show up. But other than that, I think that's all. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, all the links will be down in the description. Anything he may have missed as well. So they'll be down in the description. Or misspelled. Yeah, I might do a whole bit on that. We'll see. But make it an April Fool's joke and just change the website name to where it's misspelled. Even though April Fool's is way already passed by now.
Standable.
Istanbul. But no, thank you so much for coming on. This is a blast to finally get you on and kind of get to know a little bit about you more. But yeah, with that, ladies, gentlemen, everybody inside and outside the ballpark, that has been it for episode 61 of the Noved Notes podcast. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Of course, if you enjoyed what me and Llamas talked about, feel free to click that like button. Comment down below, what is your favorite part about using Standable? And if you're not using Standable, why haven't you? Go check out Standable. Links in the description. But of course, if you've already come back to check out some of the other episodes, why not hit that subscribe button? You're already coming back anyway. But with that, I want to thank you all so much for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. I always forget how many platforms. We're like 9 now, I think. 9 or 10 now. But with that, I love that hat! Sorry. But with that, thank you all so much for watching. And I will see you. I can't do it while I'm sitting down. In the next episode. Take care and peace. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Noved Notes.